So guys, now we're going to start assembling the panels, okay? The slab is 100% finished. Just a reminder, okay? You need to let it soak for at least a day, as it's called, right? What does that mean? It means you should spend a day with the slab, just pouring water on it. You can use a hose, keep it really soaked so it can cure perfectly, okay? We've already removed the formwork from our slab. We've taken off all the forms, everything that was around it, right? Made of wood. We left only the template, which is what we're going to use for marking the walls, right? You can see that we've already put the string line back in place. Look, the sewage point ended up 100% inside the wall. Our panel is 7 centimeters of EPS. So 7 centimeters is the thickness we're going to work with here using this string line where the starter bars will be placed, okay? So you can see that we've already put the string line back up on all the external walls, right? That's the starting point. We're going to do all the external walls first, then we'll start on the internal ones, okay? I'll show you here the starter bar. This bar is a 10 millimeter rebar, 3/8 of an inch, right? As some people call it. It's 50 centimeters long because 5 to 10 centimeters will be embedded in the slab. When you fix it in place, you'll have 40 centimeters left, and that's where you'll attach your panel and staple it, okay? You're going to glue, use an adhesive called epoxy. Here we're using the one from Rotopass, but there are other brands as well. It comes in 2 components that you mix together to secure the rebar, okay? In the slab. I'll show you here, the team drilling, okay? Here, this is the spacing between the starter bars. I'll show you a closer look here. Notice that there's an outer line and an inner line, and the space between them is 50 centimeters, okay? Don't forget that. 50 centimeters, all right? 1 row, and on the inside row, you'll also use the 50 centimeters of spacing, but with an offset between them, forming a kind of zigzag every 25 centimeters, okay? Be very attentive, be very careful when you're making the holes to fix the starter bars. You really need to use the guideline string. The purpose of these starter bars is to keep your panel aligned. If you don't get a perfect alignment with the starter bars, your wall will end up looking like a snake. So that's going to cause problems when it's time to plaster, okay? So check, observe, take a look. If it's crooked, go there and make pull it in a little or push it out depending on what's needed, okay? I'm going to show you here. One person drilling the hole for the starter bar, and then another already fixing it in place, applying the glue to the starter bar, and then setting it, all right? Let's show it here. Lining it up with the string. Look. Perfectly straight. See? Lining it up with the string. Once you've drilled, you come here, apply the epoxy glue to the rebar and set it in place. Remember, since it's a 10 millimeter rebar, you should use a 10 millimeter drill bit, okay? You'll notice it goes in with a bit of difficulty. You need to give it a few hammer blows to get it fully fixed in place. Once that glue dries, you won't be able to remove this starter bar from here anymore. Yeah, epoxy glue has a really high strength. It's made specifically for concrete, okay? So be careful and pay close attention to the alignment of the panels, all right? So that the walls don't end up crooked. Always check, especially right after you finish installing all the starter bars. Keep checking, take a look, okay? Look and see if nothing is out of place, if there isn't one that's crooked or leaning to one side or the other. If there is, pull it back so that when you fix the panels in place, the wall doesn't end up crooked. It has to be 100% aligned, okay? That's the purpose of the starter bars, to keep the panels aligned, all right? Here, folks, in more detail, I'm showing you how to mark the first starter bar to pull the line, right? For marking, look, use a hand level, keep it leveled, and make the mark according to the line, right? The top upper line. Then you go to the other end and do the same thing from corner to corner of the wall, right? Set it to level. make the mark. Be very careful with this detail. If you mark it wrong, or if the mark is out of level, it can cause mistakes in the wall markings, which may lead to problems when you try to install or align things later on. So it's very important to make sure your mark is accurate and level before you proceed. Have you marked it? Double check to confirm it's in the right spot. Now, once you're sure, you can come over to this side, right? You're going to make the very first hole here. This exact point. Doing this carefully will help ensure everything lines up perfectly. The mixing of the epoxy glue, folks. There are, as I mentioned earlier, there are two components, right? So you're going to mix the two together. One is the actual GL, the actual glue, and the other is the hardener, as it's called, right? So that it dries faster. So the more you add of this dark component here, the faster it will harden. So you should measure out only the amount you're going to use, because it stays at a certain consistency for a limited time. And after that, it starts to harden and you end up wasting it if you make too much. So make a little at a time and keep using it as you go. All right, let's secure the first point here to stretch the line. Remember, it's 7 centimeters, which is the thickness of our panel. Actually, that's the EPS, right? Which leaves 1 centimeter on each side between the EPS and the mesh, and that's exactly where you'll secure the anchor. Okay, check it. Make sure it's touching the line exactly. Let's move on to the next point now. Just like before, carefully apply the epoxy glue and make sure to secure it well. Now you pull the line, right? Remember everyone, the line needs to stay on the outside here of the anchor, okay? If it ends up on the inside, that's wrong. You'll drill in the wrong place. The line should be on the external part here of the anchor on the outside. And when you go to drill, you drill on the inside from the line inward, okay? Look, I'm already pulling the line here. Checking how it's tied. This is the external face of the panel. So once the line is secured, you start marking the first face every 50 centimeters. Here we are using a 50 centimeter rebar, right, which already matches the measurement. You can use a tape measure, whichever you prefer. There are other methods. Instead of the line, some people make the markings directly on the slab itself, right? With chalk, with spray paint. So you'll use whatever method you find works best for you. We prefer it this way, marking with the line. It's much safer with the line, right? The accuracy. Now we're going to start drilling the holes on the outer face of the slab. Remember, it has to be an impact drill, okay guys, to be able to drill into this concrete, alright? We're going to use an impact drill here because a regular drill just won't handle this many holes, okay? Now let's start marking the other side. Remember, it should be in the middle, okay? In the middle of the two 50-centimeter starter points, which will create a zigzag of 25. Mark it precisely with the hand level. Then you'll make the first hole there, all right? After that, move to the other end of the panel and repeat the same process. Again, between the two starter points already fixed. Check the level. Make the marking. You come in and drill the hole, right? Carefully, slowly, and thoroughly apply epoxy glue with steady hands and secure it in place. That's it. Let's go to the other end, just over there for a moment, and drill again. This is the time for you to check. Yeah, now the starter points are aligned. Just pull it to the line. If it's off, well, be very careful. Go ahead and pull the line there. Remember, it's on the outer face of the starter, okay? The line runs along on the outer face of the starter, but the hole is drilled from the inside. Otherwise, you'll drill it wrong and your starter will be out of alignment. Adjust, check, tie it off, and stretch the line well. Mark every 50. Here we're using a 50-centimeter bar that's already cut to size, right? Always remember to double check, folks. You can see there that the professional is pulling the starter, trying to line it up with the string, right? Adjust it. You need to make sure the starter is perfectly plumb there. Guys, for anyone who has questions about how this alignment was done, notice that we made two holes here, right? We fixed this one first, the one that's on the inside, right? The inner face of the panel, and the other one over there, that's the outer face of the panel. So we did this from one end of the wall to the other. And notice that we stretched two lines, right? One on this first one and one on this second one. So that's the perfect alignment, right? At both ends, the two are fixed and checked. Then for the rest, we just follow the alignment of the line. See? The projection of the line, wherever the line is going, right? You secure the starter pieces. I'll show you here on the other side. Look, see, the same two that are over there, one on the outer face and one on the inner face with the line set very low. That's where you'll check and follow for securing the starter pieces, right? So that they are 100% aligned. Showing you here the alignment of the starter pieces, see? It has to be perfectly aligned, see? Aligned and checked. The other face. Aligned and checked. So that's the procedure, okay? Then you just repeat this whole procedure throughout the entire project, all the external markings. After finishing these external markings, we'll start marking the internal walls of the house. These panels were supplied by Mundia EPS, okay, a great partner of ours. We also have a type of panel that's used only as a partition, but it differs a bit, right, in terms of the mesh. The mesh is 5 by 10, so we have these two options. In this project, we are using the 100% structural panel, okay? You can see that the entire outline of the building already has the starter bars in place. This is a simple house, as I mentioned before. It's only 43 square meters, right? Here is a living room with an integrated kitchen, and there's even a sewage point here. Here is a bedroom, right, where I am, and over there is a bathroom, okay? You can see that you already get a perfect view of the entire layout of the building. Now we're going to start assembling our first panel, and from there on, we'll give you even more details about every step, the fastening, how to secure it, alright, the proper tools, and the specific type of panel for each construction situation. These here are our panels, okay? We're going to start the assembly now. This is a sample of the panel we work with, alright? Specifications of this panel. It's a structural panel. It can handle support up to 4 floors on top of it, okay? 100% structural. You can see that its mesh has only 5 by 5 spacing, and the wire is 2.4 BTC, alright? It is latticed. The function of the EPS in this type of monolithic panel, the only function it has is to act as a mold, right? It is thermoacoustic. It will make your house thermal, acoustic, and permeable, okay? That is the only function of the EPS. EPS has no structural function. I'm going to show you a sample of EPS, of a panel without the EPS, so you can get an idea of what I'm talking about, right? This here is a sample of our panel without the EPS. Notice that these connectors, there are 660 connectors that come per panel, right? Each of our panels measures 1.15 by 3 meters. So as soon as you remove the EPS from inside, this is what you see. These connectors form a kind of internal truss. So notice that the EPS is not bare on the inside. It forms this kind of truss, and that's exactly what gives the panel its structure, okay? Let's get started now with assembling our first EPS panel. An important point I want to share with you is to notice that our panel has a gap between the EPS and the mesh, and it's exactly here where we'll secure the starter bar. So the starter bar goes in this position between the EPS and the mesh, alright? We're going to do a demonstration for you with the team here, showing how to secure our first panel. It's important to have at least 3 professionals, 2 to hold the panel on each side, and 1 to move and fit the starter bar in place like this. Alright? Remember that the EPS, the panel, must be fully supported along the entire edge of the slab, okay? If it's not properly supported, you might have problems up top at the level of the slab, alright? This flap that comes on the panel, about 10 centimeters, is used to fit one panel into the other like this.
you'll take the other panel and fit it here, and this is where you'll do the stapling, right? Which is how you secure one panel to the other, okay? So now we're going to assemble our second panel, okay? So guys, a very important detail I want to share with you is that when you're assembling, with each panel you add to the starters, you should already be stapling them together, all right? You should already be tying them together, locking one panel to the other. Why? Because if you just keep adding panels and only adjust them afterwards, you'll end up having to redo your work. Things might not line up. You might end up having to take down the whole wall and start over. So keep adding and stapling each panel together as you go. Check the level at the top and make sure the bottom is flush with the slab. So you make all the adjustments when assembling the panel, okay? Of the panel that you're assembling. Don't leave that for later, because this way everything will be set up properly, all aligned, everything nice and tight. I'm gonna show you a tool to help you save time, okay? Like I always say, if you're using a completely innovative system that really saves you time, it's important to use the right tools. This here is a C-type pneumatic stapler, right? Which we've adapted for this kind of system, okay? Our mesh has a thickness of 2.4, right? So when you join one wire to another, you get 4.8, which is exactly the closure size for this C-type staple. See? This here is the 4.8 closure, which is exactly, right, our wire here that I'm explaining. The joining of the two wires. When you staple, let me do a quick demonstration. When you staple here, it holds really securely, okay? So compared to using pliers, you definitely save a significant amount of time, okay? The job you can do here in 10 minutes with this stapler, with pliers, you'd spend the whole day. We're gonna do a demonstration, folks, using the panel fastening, checking the level, making sure the two panels are really aligned. And right after that, we'll do a comparison using the conventional tool, just so you can get an idea of the time difference. This gun, it's powered by an air compressor, okay? Here's the compressor, all right? It has an air hose, and it's the compressed air that makes it work, right? That's what makes it staple and close like this, see? See that? We're already finishing up the fastening of the two panels. You have to fasten it well. You can put about 6 staples on one side and 6 on the other to make sure it's really secure. For the higher parts, it's a good idea to use a ladder. Don't forget to staple the top part of the panel. Remember, you'll be stapling both on the inside face and the outside face, okay? It's not just on the inside, no. On the other side of the panel, on that flap as well, at the junction of the two meshes, you also need to staple there. That's where you join the two faces, the two panels together. Hold on, wait, go back for just a second. It's just up ahead. Look, right there. Do you see it now? Take a closer look. Let's go. Guys, why is it important to level our slab? Look at the gap between the slab and the panel, almost zero. Our slab is practically 100% supported, right? If you don't screed it, if you don't make sure the slab is 100% level, 100% flat, there will be some kind of gap between the wall or between the slab and our panel. Another important detail, the joint here, look. I'm going to show you how the joint between one panel and another should look, see? As minimal as possible, as minimal as possible. Look, you can barely even see the joint, really, the joint. That's how the joint between one panel and another should be. almost zero space between one and the other. That's very important. So, very important. Really, the EPS needs to have the minimum possible gap between one and the other, okay? This is to prevent any kind of cracks or fissures, okay? After the plastering, with Luke once again down here, so you can really pay attention to this part. See, 100% supported, the slab 100% leveled, 100% flat, right? But that's exactly why it's so important to always carefully check the level of the slab, all right? Just to be absolutely sure. As I mentioned before, please don't forget to securely fasten and properly secure the panels on the outside as well, making sure everything is stable and in place, and double check if necessary.